Hi, EC.
So do you like queue up with a specific?
Thank you for the check-in. Sorry, I was trying to figure out my eye tracker thing.
Random.
What?
Do you queue
Sorry,
up
I
with
can't.
like
It's hard to reply while I'm playing.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Oh, they're characters, but they just happen to all use different weapons.
Okay.
Hi, chat.
Hi, Zap.
Yeah, Zap.
Hello.
You.
Why'd you just light that man on fire?
Why not?
He's a
It's
motherfucker.
funny that I'm not watching. I just got the. Why'd you just light that guy on fire?
That seems in bad taste.
I had fire in my pocket, and it needed to be on him.
That's fair. You know what?
Now me and Easy are color coded. We're good. We're good. This is helpful. This is very helpful.
Zap, you're so shiny.
That's so cute.
I know.
Where?
I don't know why he's so shiny.
Like,
You're so
just like that in the base
shiny.
game.
Standing in the rain?
No. I'm just standing here.
He oiled up. He looks like he's like you just took a picture of him straight off of Love Island or something. Yeah, I've been watching Love Island for for a little bit. I have friends that watch trash TV every night. Just
That's
fucking
awesome.
slop. They call it trash TV night. They're watching Love Island right now. Let me tell you, some of those shows like stress me out too much and give me like
The
trauma
drama.
responses.
The drama.
Some of them like the ones where like they're
crash outs.
the ones where like they're cheating on each other the whole time constantly like give me trauma responses. I can't watch those. I had that shit stresses me out too much.
No, you see the glow really goes with the color of this video. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
you guys are really matching.
Yeah.
Very
This
cute.
is synergy. Synergy. No, not in the side.
No.
This is the
I'm
synergy
looking.
side.
I'm looking. Hold on. I was about to say the texture on the back of the hat is cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, my weapon is garbage. I didn't glam my weapon.
Still time.
Go globalist your uwu globe.
Uwu globe? I have to find it.
Thank you for complimenting my hat, Makoto. You know, can't mess with the synergy, yo. You ever watch Soul Eater? The synergy, bro.
What's Soul Eater?
soul resonance?
Soul Eater is like it's an anime. It's an old one.
It's old. It's a very good anime.
That's a
Soul
classic.
resonance.
Hearing you say Soul Eater and old like made my like I'm
Dude,
a
that's
fucking
20 years
holy
old, bro.
shit.
It is old.
Flashback. It's all the shit.
It doesn't sound right.
It is old.
That means I'm old. I
Yeah.
don't like that.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
Those dancer weapons were like made for you.
I know. I was so surprised how nice they look.
My standards are usually pretty, or not my standards. My
See, can I change your
expectations.
name in my server? Because every time I type @live to ping the role, you come up first, and I don't know why.
What? Yeah, you can. That's weird.
Yeah, I can't figure out
What?
why that is the case.
Is it because it's picking up the in his name the L and the I? It's picking those up.
Well, like
and
I
then-
type the whole word live, and he's still the first result
Oh, I have no clue.
I'm
over the
special.
role called live. It didn't
There's
work.
nothing.
That's Malik.
It's still doing it.
He just has higher privileges. It's okay.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah. Why does that happen? What?
I don't know.
Because like nothing in my profile has. Huh.
Yeah, I went and checked your actual Discord name, and it does not explain it at all.
It does it in Wings too.
Hi, Mal.
Yo, Malik.
I'm Al.
We're missing one SV buff. Where's the other one?
It's gotta be that you have like LI and VE in your name.
Yeah, that's what I was
weird.
thinking. Yeah. Other than that,
Yeah, but why
I
would he
have
come
no
up
clue.
first?
I don't well, because like when you type LI, EC's the one that comes up first because of the LI in it. So that's probably it. And also, Discord probably just prioritizes members over roles for searching.
That's silly.
Li puts everyone first. In mind. Yeah, I don't know. I need to leave and come back. Sorry.
But then LI puts Dory over Z, so I don't fucking know.
It's all arbitrary. None of it makes any sense.
It's Discord.
Dick sword. Thanks.
Where'd those crickets come from?
Soundboard.
What species of cricket is that, EC?
Discord.
Discord cricket.
Where was the recording taken from?
You can't test DC. She's actually going to try to find out and narrow it down.
Let me grab my water real quick.
There's like a big fat fly in my room. It's pissing me off so much. He's so aggressive.
A BFF.
A BFF.
No.
God damn it. That's so stupid.
Dude. Fuck off. He's like crawling in between the keys of my keyboard. It
Yeah.
should, man.
PC, are you ready?
Yes.
Did you just
Dive
cast the
into
spell at
it.
me in the party chat? What is that?
Brillis pennsylvanicus. It's a ball
Oh,
field.
oh,
shit.
oh! I know where they're from.
Where are they from?
Pennsylvania.
The silence is deafening.
Is he right?
It would be really funny if that was wrong.
Casey's so disappointed that she's just not talking to us anymore.
Why are you assuming that I'm wrong? She's not saying anything because there's nothing to add because I'm right.
I don't know.
See?
The silence is quite deafening. In like a bad way.
You're completely inventing that I'm wrong because you want me to be wrong, not because of that I am.
Well, it would be really funny if that was wrong.
Yeah, but it's not.
What if it was?
It's in the name. It's right there.
Hi,
The doctor didn't
Siobhan.
say that
New
I'm wrong, so
outfit for my
that's
model?
must be fine.
Or my... Or like... Or both.
You do look like you just came off right off of Love Island.
Oh no, I've had this
I
outfit
don't know
before.
why. That's
Down to
base game.
northern
He's super
Mexico.
shiny.
Hold on, let me start streaming actually. I messed this up.
Now remember to do your cool opener for cool people.
Oh yeah.
Make sure this is YouTube.
I need my chain to be 0.6 seconds faster, or it doesn't work. I wish I was joking.
No, I get it because I'm literally doing the same thing just to hit like one more OGCD. It's awesome.
No. It's not to squeeze an OGCD. It's because it has to be 0.6 seconds faster because the second time that I do it, 0.6 seconds later, I have a heal that I have to use there because it's been off cooldown for 1 second. And if I press it 1 second later, it drifts again later when I have to press a different cooldown within 1 second.
Dude, this fight is awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm not even joking. This fight would probably be like 20% easier if every phase was just like 2 seconds longer. It's like so bad. And the fucked up part is that this matters.
Oh,
like,
sorry.
later.
I'm just usually so
Yeah.
focused on the engaging Viper
It matters a
gameplay. I
lot.
guess I didn't notice it before. I mean, I haven't used this outfit in a while, so it's
I don't know
fine.
if this is working.
We're about to go
in.
into, but I wanted to say hello and wish you
What are you
luck.
trying to
Thank
do?
you. Good luck as well for you.
Make sure that I have a video of everything we're doing.
Yabby!
Yeah, no, it broke.
Hi,
I don't know why.
Abby. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Thank you for the 5
Would you like me
months.
to help?
Thank you for the 5 months. Cute outfit. Thank you. You're cute. If you didn't know, I have a sticker club. So Twitch members, Twitch subs can opt into it. They just have to go into the link that I just posted. And you just opt in and I will send you stickers. I will send them out after the 25th. 25th is the
Pardon
deadline
me. Is that yes or
to fill out the form to get stickers.
It's
It's
more like I think
completely
that I
it's
wouldn't
a
wanna delay it, right,
sticker
to try
club
to figure this
for
out.
you can join sticker
That's okay,
club
we can do
via
that
my
on work.
coffee or
Okay.
you can opt in via Twitch
Yeah,
sub.
if
Have
you need to
something
do
to
it-
see, I'd rather do it. Yeah.
Man,
No, it's just for playbacks for healing purposes.
it'll be fine. for now.
Gabby, we should hang out more. You're
We
fun to
can just
hang out
bring
with.
a break. We can take a break in like an hour and then fix it then. I don't really know what I want to do anyway. So
Oh my
yeah.
god.
The
Yeah,
final
I'm
for
still
real ready
figuring
check.
that out.
Yeah. Well, let me know. And then if we gotta do, I'm down for whatever. You guys need to set that up.
I still need to just get the timing of macrocosmos right.
You said we wanted 12 seconds.
Just don't push it too early.
Ole.
I love the song. Yeah, it's a good song.
Just press it right before earthquake or something. Or kind of close to right before earthquake.
My hands are kind of cold, so they're a little stiff. So we'll see how well things go until my fingies warm up. Stickers, yeah! Definitely fill out the Google forms. I can send you stickers. I will say that the stickers this month are just like Wings of Immortal, like themed
Spreading.
stickers. But I think
Sorry, I forgot that was my job for a second.
next month I'm gonna be doing like either like more VTuber or something.
Lightning.
I will usually also like have previews of like what I'm working on for the next month, the following month. I don't have anything this time around, so yeah, you guys will. It'll be a surprise.
DPS?
I am a DPS. I am a DPS. Did you know I am a DPS?
Left. Goodbye.
Oh. Oh.
Sorry, I wasn't looking at the screen for 2 seconds. What happened was it just forget to push in one.
Does that count as a tank buster for me?
Yeah,
I think
that
you
was
got
a
it.
busting. Yeah, you got it.
God damn it.
It half counts if it didn't actually target you, but you did get hit by it.
Yeah, he turned directly towards me.
Were you second aggro?
Yeah. I think.
From what I believe. I'm pretty sure Seiken was just on top of you.
This is my first time, so please take it easy. Quick now, make your peace with death, because I'm making your death with all these pieces.
Hope the froggies are going well. Yeah, we were making decent prog last week. We were getting 2P3 consistently, and we did limit cut properly once.
Stack in.
So it's about consistency. Oh, I think we saw the first set of black holes. Like that counts, you know.
Betty. Bofa.
Oofa, our favorite. I am going to try to yap more with chat while I raid.
I wasn't scared.
I would like to yap with you guys more than you guys just watching in silence and being here for funny moments.
DPS?
I am a DPS. Yeah, consistency is a big one for sure. That is also progging. Look at there. Thank you. You're so sweet, Yabby.
Supports.
I am not a support. I am not a support.
Right.
I have confetti.
Confetti.
I have confetti. Yippee. Oh, I'm so far away. Oopsies. I started taking Adderall again for my ADHD.
There's no way that didn't work.
I think that's why I'm doing well currently, being able to raid and yap with chat. Yep, yep, yep. Yep, yep, yep. Down and across. Right.
Still alive? Unbelievable.
Ready.
I really must insist you die.
Who's gonna get hit? Is it Nora or me? Oh, it's me. Damn it.
Do not look. Do not.
Do not look, he says.
Stack in. Do not look.
That's gonna suck for my opener for P3, but oh well, whatever, I guess.
Intriguing. This clearly isn't your first time. This is meant to be our ultimate encounter. Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
Remember to mint, remember to pot. One, remember this.
And cone. I am cone.
Wow.
Did I kill everybody? I might have killed everybody. Murdered. I think that was my fault, actually. I don't know. Oh, one second. I need to take off my rings. They're overstimulating me right now.
Colin.
This is my first
My hands are still so cold. I should actually get like reusable like hand warmers or something.
quick now. Make your peace with
I used to use hand warmers for like week 1.
with all these pieces.
Yeah, those would help.
Yes. Stack in.
Oh, I made it barely.
Confetti. Bofa.
Line and sinker.
I use hand warmers for fighting games. Oh hell yeah! Do you like have a reusable one, or do you just get the like the ones that you throw away after they are used?
Did you think you'd won? Oh no no no! We've only just begun.
DPS.
I am a DPS.
Right. DPS. Right.
I was trying to do something different, and I
Ready.
threw off my groove.
What? There's no way that didn't work.
Confetti?
I really must insist you die.
Do not look. Do not. Stack in, do not look.
How boring.
Yeah.
Guess I'll have to spice things up.
You also need to invest on reusable ones. Yeah.
Intriguing. This clearly isn't your first time.
Yeah, you definitely don't need them in the summer. Well, I guess it depends if you're in like air conditioning,
Ultimate encounter.
which I suppose I am. That's why my hands are so cold.
Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
Remember to mint, remember the pot.
Thank you.
Remember this.
I
One.
am Defa. Support Defa. Support Defa. Support Defa. Support Defa. Support
Two.
Defa.
Then passed.
Support Defa.
Passed.
Support Defa.
3.
Support Defa.
Remember this. 4. Then future. Future. 5. Six. Then future. Future.
DPS,
7.
DPS tower, DPS tower, DPS tower, DPS tower.
8. Then passed on C. C. Stay. Knit. Party to A.
Dude, the fly! Get out of here!
Good damage.
Hey, don't call
I'm
Kemp
literally
a
I'm
fly.
literally gonna double weave clapping my hands in the air.
I
to
feel
kill it,
that
like,
I'm on
mid-
the side of the
forward
house. The
5 seconds.
sun hits
Good thing
all
you have a
day, so it gets
40-second
warm in
cutscene.
here.
What's
Oh,
going on here?
Dude, he fucked off during the cutscene. That's the most fucked up part.
He knows. At the downtime.
I really want a sunroom though.
Oh, you're in for it now.
Fly was just hitting you with this 2-minute burst.
Who am I talking to?
Well, if Yappy, if you get any reusable ones and you like them, let me know.
Right. Let's see if I can't take the reins for a spell.
I will not allow the tanks to die to healing this pool.
There's nothing I can't do. Oh, what other toys can I throw in here?
My faint.
Fire short.
Fire.
I want to look away from XF. Away from XF.
2
Away from
minutes.
XF.
Front back.
Stop.
Watcher.
Away from XF. Away from XF.
Check your back shots. Bait the jump. Don't die to the jump. I can't see what we're saying. 3 clockwise. 3 clockwise. 3 clockwise. 3 clockwise. 3 clockwise. 3 clockwise. This is 3. I'm 3. Living Dead is next.
At 3C. No.
My brain.
There's no tanks.
I'll take it.
Oh no.
I'll take it.
My bad.
What do I do?
The first time I've had
Oh,
a while where
makes
I'm
sense.
like whipping my camera around. Usually I know where it is.
Oh no, I can't grab that guy.
I'm out of MP.
I can only grab chaos.
By the way,
My
just
bad.
for targeting purposes, Nar, are you always chaining X-Death?
Oh, I was, but I can not. I can chain chaos instead if it's better.
Just depends on our melees. I assume they've been targeting Chaos.
I think
They've
Yeah.
been swapping
so
them.
usually you want to target Xeth there because when Xeth is doing the tank buster, which chain comes up when he's still doing the tank buster, you can cleave from Xeth to chaos, but not the other way around.
Hmm.
But that's only for like one GCD, so like I could just chain chaos instead.
Really quick.
Would you prefer I just do that?
Yeah, I think it's more up to the melees. They're the ones that care a bit more about it.
I wasn't really thinking about it, but yes, I have been
Yeah.
chaining Xeth.
I'm not
Switching
sure.
is not a big
I
deal.
mean, currently I'm just kind of focusing on mechanics. I stay on chaos unless I need to look at Xdeath for the mechanic, and then I'll switch to him.
Okay,
so I don't
I'll just
burn
chain
my
chaos for now
character.
then.
I'm sure we can change it later when we get more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Sounds
wanted to
good.
call it out
Hi,
now before we got
Salty.
too into like a...
Hi. Thank you for checking.
Honestly,
Oh my god.
switching to
Thank you for the
Xeth
big
to chain him is
hello.
kind of more annoying anyway.
Big hello.
So, I don't know, convenient. Although,
But give me
yeah,
one
some people
second.
have to target Xeth there. Although, I suppose in the same way that some of the range have to target Xeth, some of the melee also have to target Chaos. So, kind of the same difference either way, I guess.
Just for clarification,
Hi,
when you're
cute
calling like
Dory.
3
Aw,
clockwise,
hi.
3 clockwise, that means one is starting at 3 clockwise, correct? Just making sure. Making sure
Correct.
covering.
That'd be right.
Okay. Okay.
This is why.
I will say, every time somebody has asked me to make sure they know how to do it, they've been correct. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows how to do it. We just have to actually do it.
Do it. Yeah.
It's so nice
Okay.
to hear you again. I hope you're doing wonderful. Aw,
Okay,
I
nice.
am
No
doing
worries.
pretty good,
I don't
actually.
think anyone
Thank you.
doesn't know how to do the
I
mechanic.
am yapping with
No
chat a
worries.
lot more
Yeah,
because
I'm just
I
making
am
sure I
back
can
on being
check myself.
medicated. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
back
just
on
gonna be
Adderall
a
for my
disadvantage.
ADHD. So I am able
That's the
to
hardest part for me. I'm just making sure.
handle rating more and yap.
Alright,
So
full-
I'm
oh,
trying my
okay.
best to yap with you
I mean, I can
guys.
say it a different way. If you rather, I say like C4 instead. I know some people do that.
No,
instead
I
of
like
saying
the way
clockwise,
you're
you
doing
can-
it.
I like the way you do
No.
it.
I
Yeah,
like the way
please
you do it,
continue
yeah.
doing what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
There's also those macros. Like I said, a lot of people like those macros, but
Malik
Yeah,
says, I like
I
Nor.
can't do that.
Like, I knew it.
True. Truth news.
He's so nice to me.
Oh my goodness. Big heart.
Count that down.
Heart from Yabby, heart from Salty. These are so sweet.
This is my first time, so please take it easy.
I'm not really vibing with the music currently. It's fine. But like, I also don't really have a preference right now to what I want to listen to. Guess what, you guys? I'm going to the Renaissance Fair this weekend.
Supports. Spread in.
I love the Renaissance Fair. I've been going for the past like 8 years.
Confetti. Dodge.
I fucked up a little bit, but fine.
I hate the fairy. Unlucky.
Ah.
Died through X-Fog.
Did you think you'd won? Oh, no, no, no. We've only just begun.
For supports.
I am not a support.
Left. Supports. Right.
I have confetti again. Yippee!
Ah, no confetti.
Whoops.
Oh,
Yeah, we could jump.
Didn't
Casey
realize we
just
didn't have it.
murdered all the DPS.
It wasn't me.
You called it though! You called it!
It was everyone who didn't know that there was no
I noticed
confetti. It was
it
all
at
their
the
fault.
last second.
I should have noticed, but
I also didn't notice. Whoops. That's unlucky.
Do you
That
guys
should've
like going to the
timed him.
Renaissance Fair?
Malik took the party popper with
It's
him.
because he's at like exactly like 51% with no other. The tank buster only hits him for like 55% of his health. So if he has in between 50 and 55% of his health and no other mitt,
I
for the
haven't been
third
in
mitt, it'll
Kafka
just kill
since
him for the
like
X-Fog,
second
if the
month.
X-Fog hasn't
I
triggered
just
yet.
don't feel like logging in for it. You know, that's
It's just a
valid.
timing thing.
That's so
Or maybe
valid.
RNG. If he had like a shield or if he had something for the third hit, he would have lived. But ironically, also, if he had taken more damage, he also would have lived.
This is my first time, so please take it
Fucked up.
easy.
My hands have now warmed up. Don't feel stiff.
Quick now, make your peace with death, because I
That took like
death with all these pieces.
3-4 pulls.
Supports. Spread out. Confetti.
Oh, I forgot to turn on my VPN.
Okay.
Ooh, that's fine. We're doing all right. There is a big storm currently happening. So if I do lose internet and my stream goes poof, it's because, yeah, storm. Tea, I love tea.
No, we've only just begun.
He's my favorite. Hey, Abby.
Supports.
I'm not a support. I'm not a support.
Right. DPS. Left. Confetti.
want to do Fru. I have not done Fru. I want to do Fru. Dude, Fru, Viper Fru weapon, so pretty. I need it in my life.
Still alive? Unbelievable!
Buddy.
I really must insist you die!
You must look. You must. Spread in, you must look. What?
Yeah, how boring. Guess I'll have to spice things up.
You must look.
This
I was
clearly
musting
isn't
and
your
looking.
first time.
Started Fru just
Weird
before
to be
Kefka
telling them
released, so
something.
it was mostly just PF
Oh.
fills. Waiting, should be better now.
Is meant to be our ultimate encounter.
I'm like
Shoot audio. I never
losing my voice a little bit. I usually don't yap this much.
No, I got a damage down.
Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
Remember to mitt, remember to pot.
How embarrassing. Thank you for the hydrate. Oh, I do have water next to me. On.
Remember this.
I am cone. I am cone. I am cone.
Oh.
Deffa. Support Deffa.
Then passed. Passed.
Deffa.
3.
God, they really fucking hate me.
Remember this.
Deffa again.
4. Then passed. Passed.
Deffa, Deffa, Deffa.
5.
I am Deffa, 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 Deffa.
Future. Future.
Deffa,
7.
Deffa.
8. Then passed on A. A. Stay. Mitt. Party to C.
Squeeze it in, squeeze it in, squeeze it in, squeeze it in.
I'm squeezing.
Oh, I wasn't as tight as it looks. Don't take
I'll
that out
drop
of context.
GCDs in this
It's too late.
You got it already, bro. It's
Don't,
It's too late.
Yeah,
Don't
sorry,
take the
my
audio
confetti's
down
still
without the
broken.
video, please.
I forgot to fix it. I'm sorry. Sorry. Drinking water.
Let's squeeze the damage in.
You're in for it.
Yeah, you
I
did.
should squeeze it in. My bad.
Who am I talking to? I'm talking to you.
Sorry.
of course.
I'm not trying to clear my voice right into the mic. I'm sorry.
Because he's talking to me.
Right.
Talking to me.
You must drink water. Water good. Water is very good.
He was talking to me.
There's nothing I can't do.
Water short.
I have fire. Fire.
Water.
Frank has fire.
Thank you. Sides. Fire.
What a marvelous sensation!
Vacuum
What do I
light,
have?
check your back shocks.
Away from X death. Away from X death. Away from X death. Away from X death.
3 clockwise.
I think I was
3
too close.
clockwise.
Was I too close? I
3
thought it was.
clockwise.
That's awkward.
3 clockwise.
Frank glass there?
Can you take it? Smile.
Take one.
Sorry, I think I was too close to the middle.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
I've got big ambitions and a
Rose.
big attitude.
No, Z, why?
Dude, there's so many tank busters. Stop killing my party members.
I'm
I
scared.
hate this.
What do I do?
I'm scared.
I'm winning.
I'm scared.
I don't have gauge to cover you, bro.
Right.
I don't have mana to do it. Oh, I got mana now.
Gross.
Hollow ground's coming down now. Alright, I got first.
Hey, black
I got this.
holes.
Alright, we got it. I gotta put.
Yeah, I really need to go to the bathroom in like 2 minutes.
You must stay close to X death for vacuum wave.
Dory, I want to do the same thing you're doing every time, and I have to mentally stop myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean, Z?
Backing up.
I was standing next to everybody, but I think I had I was just like one foot too close.
Me wanting to be very sure that I'm not like in a hitbox.
You can be in the hitbox as long as you're on the backside of him.
Oh, okay.
You want to be close because you're getting knocked back
Hi,
and you want to land closer to the middle.
Umi?
You know what I mean?
Miumi?
I'm more
Yeah,
scared of
Think,
getting
I'm
knocked
sorry,
back.
I'm really bad at names. Hopefully I said it correctly.
Be clockwise. So
Hi,
2
hi.
would have been
Welcome
right
in.
here. Nice.
No.
2?
Did I say
You're at
3? Did
3.
you say 3 clockwise?
Oh, I thought you said C
Miumi.
clockwise.
That's such a cute
Oh,
name.
shit. Whoops, I'm wrong.
Oh.
I like your
3
name.
clockwise? I'm just wrong. Okay.
I say Alpha, Charlie, Bravo, Delta, specifically for that exact reason. B, C, D.
Alright, so if it was 3 clockwise, then 2 would have been right here. Okay.
Yes.
My dancer is on a quick pee
This
break.
is 8.
Yes.
I just need to
and
make
this
sure
is 7.
Yep.
it's always lining up with the
Okay,
numbers.
I went to
What's
6.
the one after that, EC?
I went to 6 on accident.
If you line up
Which one
with
were
the
you supposed to go
numbers,
to?
it's
Oh, hold on. I think I'm gonna move my
7.
VTuber over just a
So like if you were to say the
smidge.
one that you went to and
There
then
you
the one
go.
you were supposed to, like back to back, what would you say?
I would say I went to 6 and I was supposed to go to 7.
EC went 6,
Um,
7.
I gotta go. Sorry.
Why do you say it like that? I don't understand.
I have somewhere to be.
My fish is drowning.
My fish is drowning.
I have to go fix CC's
I voted
stream.
yes to it. Oh no, I already fixed it.
No way.
All right. Good
Wait, I hit
good shit,
yes.
y'all. Yep. Yeah, you did.
You definitely hit yes.
Does that mean it's break time?
Break time? No, we
It's
just
like 3
started.
We'll go back in. We'll go back in.
The durability of one or more pieces of your gear is noticeably low.
Oh, I got repair. I got repair when we get here.
I'm trying to figure out what I want to listen to, you guys. I'm kind of like all over the place right now. I don't know.
Remember the food. Like at everybody's default, and there's just me being gay as hell
No way, indeed.
What are you talking about?
on the character portraits.
Oh, I think I have this turned off.
Do I? I don't see him anymore.
That's good. Wait, I need to try something. So if it was 3 clockwise, I could go. Maybe.
Wah. Wah.
So that's. Are you trying to go to 3 clockwise?
No, I'm just trying to see how I can think about it in a different way rather than looking at the spaces rather than looking at the markers. And
I already focus targeted.
I mean, I could like offer a zillion. There's like a zillion shortcuts you can do for this. I could offer a zillion shortcuts, but like, it's just one of those things you have to figure out for
I did
yourself.
7
ultimately.
Miyumi, I
correctly
see you
last time,
have
and
the
it just,
VT tag.
messed with me because
You
I was
also a
raging and then
VTuber?
also thinking about it.
You also play
I
14?
just went one too far. So I was like, I think I have a plan to help make sure that doesn't happen again.
I do.
You're better. That's what I gotta do because
I just gotta remember time.
I do.
Yeah.
I do the. I said do. I do the.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. I count to the right. 6, 7, 8. I count to the left, and then 4 and 5. It just runs straight across.
Yeah, I do the same.
That's what I'm trying to do. I just gotta go to the right spot in the beginning because I heard fucking C. That's my bad. All right. Well,
It helps to try to look while you're standing there doing your back shot. If you're only looking at like while we're doing the stack, it's harder, a lot harder.
yeah.
This is my first time, so
Wah,
please
wah,
take
wah.
it easy.
Dude, I'm really sad. So my favorite band,
Quick now, make your
who
peace
we are listening to currently, right, Windwalkers,
with all these people.
they were gonna be like pretty close to my hometown for another tour, and they sold out already. I'm like, what? That's crazy.
DPS. Spread out.
I was really excited to go see them. I'm gonna see if I can
Okay.
possibly get like some tickets.
Ice.
I'm sure somebody will be selling them for a ridiculous amount of price closer to the concert date. No, it's not happening for another couple months. I didn't think they were gonna sell out that quick. The last time I went and got to see them not too long ago,
DPS.
I am a DPS. Sorry, had to use a little bit of brain
Right.
power there.
DPS.
Hell yeah.
Right.
I have confetti.
Betty.
But yeah, no, the last time I went to go see them,
I don't want to talk about it.
I was able to get tickets like the month of. And they weren't even the headliner. Headliner. When I saw them last, they were touring with another group. And I really wanted to go see this one because this is the first time they're like being headliners.
Still alive? Unbelievable!
Confetti.
I really must insist you die!
You must look. You must. Stack out. You must look.
Yeah, how boring. Guess I'll have to spice things up. Intriguing. This clearly isn't your first time.
Okay, Forsaken time.
This is meant to be our ultimate encounter. Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
Remember to mitt, remember to pot. Remember this.
Support the
2. Then passed. Passed.
Support the
3. Remember this. 4. Then future. Future.
DPS stack.
5.
Oh. Wait.
What if everyone raises exactly what they're supposed to be? Wouldn't that be awesome?
I believe.
Sorry, I was stuck in MSQ roulette. Oh, no worries.
I just
Yeah, dude.
pressed
Oh,
it.
wait. Oh my god, you've been following for 5 years? Did you?
Alright. Oh, I tried. It is known.
Well, welcome back, I guess. That's embarrassing. To be fair, the last like 4 years of my life has been kind of a mess.
This is my first time, so please take it easy.
I do have a little bit of memory loss due to trauma.
Quick now,
Things are a little blurry for me.
because I'm making your death with all these pieces.
Not remembering her fans. But you, Salty, no, don't say it like that.
DPS. Spread out.
Salty, no.
Confetti. Dodge.
I did a reband a couple years back. Oh, okay. Wait, what was your name before? I might recall this old username. My chat is the.
Just begun.
DPS.
What am I doing? Fuck. Alright. Ooh, I lost some control of my mouse for a second.
Left. DPS. Left. Confetti.
Bit chaotic. Whoopsies. Did I lose my train of thought? Might have. Didn't mean to do that. Rip.
What? There's no way that didn't work. Still alive? Unbelievable.
Confetti.
I really must insist you die.
Sorry.
You can't get me.
Whee!
You can't get me. You
Wee.
can't get me. Nope. Nope.
Oh, what I was gonna say. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Salty, your Sour Patch Kids. You're sour and then you're sweet. Yeah, I got into 14 back in May. Just hit Shadowbringers on Sunday. Ayo, let's go.
This is my first time.
Are you having a good time so far? Are you enjoying yourself? What you playing?
Now, make your peace with death, because I'm making your death with all these pieces.
And what server are you on? Always like adding new friends on 14.
Support.
AKA making my FC grow.
Right in.
Oh, I forgot the faint. Oopsies, it's fine.
Confetti. Dodge.
It's been fun so far. I definitely think Heaven's War was the most fun so far. With Storm Blood, it was pretty enjoyable in the back half and in post.
DPS.
Never really got the hate towards it. Yeah, I don't know. People were weird.
Supports.
And support.
Left. Confetti.
Oh.
I might need an extra heal here.
Heaven's Word's probably my favorite expansion, but that's probably because that's kind of when I started really getting into like rating and like trying to get good at the game.
We're good now.
No way that didn't work.
Stormblood's also really good. I really enjoyed Stormblood.
Still alive? Unbelievable. I
Confetti.
really must insist you
Stormblood is my favorite due to the fact that I made most of my friends during the expansion.
Do not look. Do not. Spread out. Do not look.
No, I was not an OG. I started a couple months before Heaven's Ward came out.
Huh?
Intriguing. This clearly isn't
What'd you say, EC?
your first
So
time.
how did you do that so fast?
Oh, I saw the damage down for like
This
10
Yeah, I
frames
started a month
you
before
actually
Heaven's Ward.
ultimate
I reacted in those 10 frames.
Okay.
And I haven't stopped playing, so I fucked up. Probably fine.
crafty little bastards, aren't you?
I did not. get the
whoops.
ad level.
Remember to mitt, remember to pop. Remember this.
Stack,
One.
DPS stack.
Two.
F,
Then passed. Passed.
F,
3. Remember this. 4.
and support F, support
Then
F,
passed.
support F,
Passed.
and support F,
5.
support F,
6. Then future.
support F,
Future.
support F, support F,
7. 8. Then future. Future on B. On B.
Future. I do not have Swift.
Go through.
Run through.
I don't know why I died.
Remember to mitigate.
Low-key kind of sucks. I was support Duffa, right? I was saying support Duffa the entire time. Yippee!
Party
Yippee, yippee,
A.
yippee!
Oh.
Oh,
Run away.
kids.
Run away. Kill the boss. Ah!
Destroy, destroy, destroy.
it all went to shit.
I will destroy it all.
I was support
It's been
Duffa,
so
right?
long since I got a tank buster. I'm so happy.
I'm surprised you got it specifically. Oh,
It was
Uh,
like
never mind.
the first 3 seconds of burst, so I do a ton of damage.
I have a question. I don't know why I died.
I'm looking back. I think you might have died to damage.
Okay.
No, a cone shot sideways, I thought.
Yeah.
Did it?
That is what I saw as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it
I
was
was
a- it
looking
was a
at
failed
other
bait.
people ticking up, and like I was like,
No, there's no way she died to damage. She was topped for like the whole time.
Yes.
Was that me needing to be further
The whole time,
back?
but- Oh, why did you die? Oh no. Oh, you're in
Allow
the.
me-
Are you in the tower?
Yeah, it's with
You died?
support Duffa.
my
'Cause he also
cone
had
shot
Duffa.
was
Oh, you're
in the
at
circle.
Dory.
EC, you have to be a little more to the left. Like either on the inner. You can't be inside of the inner side and half of the hitbox ring. I'm taking
Okay,
a
my
picture.
bad.
Yeah. Just for everyone. Hold on.
You asked what server a bit ago? Yeah. Oh, you're on fam.
I was looking
Nice,
at other
nice.
people's health ticking up and getting nervous. Normally, I'm like wedged in there.
It's okay.
Like I look out like I'm outside of the tower sometimes.
All good, all good.
Sorry.
You're good.
I raised you though. Does that make up for it?
Here, I'll just post this just in case anyone doesn't know, because this happens like on and off quite a bit. I'll post it in the Wings channel. See this picture right there? The yellow dot is where EC's character is. You need to be on like around where those two red dots are.
No, I will say it looks like you can be a little more off the C mark. I'm usually like right here on it.
No, I'll get hit if I go any closer. If you're going closer and you're not getting hit, it's because the guy that you're baiting from is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. You're compensating for people that are going too far inside. That's why you're going farther in and not getting punched. The strategy is to go on the inside of the ring, but I've also been going slightly out of it. Yeah, that red dot that's on the inside ring is where we're supposed to be standing, according to the strategy.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about for the baiters.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying if she was doing what she was supposed to and I go forward from that, I die. I'm standing there because that's where I'm supposed to be if people are doing it correctly.
Sorry, the 8th tower has been scary for me.
It's okay. The 8th one you said?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been swift
actually-
casting a sucker there.
Oh, okay.
Now, so because it
Okay.
is really scary. Yeah, that 8th one is rough. I've also been trying to make sure.
This is my first time, so please take it easy. Quick now, make your peace with death.
Kind of hungry.
I'm making your death with all these.
I started working out again. And I am very hungry. Don't ask me what I'm doing. I'm
DPS. Spread
being
out.
stupid. Should work out more? Hell yeah!
Betty.
Yeah, I did freaking leg day with my brother and his girlfriend because they were like really big gym rats. Oh boy. And I also went golfing.
Think you'd won? Oh no, we've only just begun.
Supports.
I am not a support.
Right. DPS.
I am, however, DPS.
Right.
And Betty.
Betty.
I will not use my gauge. I'm saving it.
There's no way that didn't work. Still alive? Unbelievable!
Betty.
I really must insist you die!
Do not look. Do not. Spread in. Do not look.
Oh no.
Yeah, how boring. Guess I'll have to spice
I wasn't
things up.
in.
Intriguing.
I can't do any of my heals
This
here. Sorry.
clearly
You have
isn't
to do
your
that.
first time.
Except for the deploy.
This is meant to be
Make sure my
our
life doesn't die.
ultimate encounter. Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
Remember to mitt. Remember to pod. Remember this. 1.
Oh,
Youch.
Sorry. We took a lot of damage there. I was scared. And then my brain short circuited.
Yeah, sorry, there was the deploy had weakness and there was no soil, so I just casted an extra heal to top us or help top us.
Food, by the way.
Olin.
I will dodge the thunder.
This is my first time, so
My bad.
please take it easy. Quick now, make your peace with death, because I'm making your death with all these pieces.
EPS. Stack out. Confetti. Lightning.
Line, taker.
oh, I'm so hungry. Nom nom noms. Maybe I'll make food during break.
Did you think you'd won? Oh, no, no, no. We've only just begun.
Supports.
I am not a support.
Right. Supports.
I am not a support. Oh, I almost went.
Right.
Oh, fuchi blah blah blah. That scared me. That scared me so bad.
We were murdered.
That was me, my bad.
All good. I think those deaths are my favorite because you just kind of see yourself fly away and you're like, oh.
I've done that a few times too, I think.
will.
Got hit by a rock and like just screamed.
I like jumped from my chair.
Oh no.
Oh no,
Also
it's the
sayonara.
explosion of the bleed puddles. Sorry, what?
I hope it didn't sound like I was blaming you. That was my mistake.
No, you're good.
Forsaken. Okay.
No, I mean even if he were, it would have been fine. It was my fault, kind of. Well, the thing that I did that contributed to it was my fault, and therefore it was at least some
This is
percentage my
first
fault.
time, so please take it
even
easy.
if not
Holy
a large
shit, I'm
one.
lagging.
What I'm trying to say.
Quick now, make your peace with death, because I'm making your death with all these pieces.
God, I can't stop thinking about food right now. Food's so bad.
DPS. Spread in. Confetti. Lightning.
Line and taker. Did you think you'd won? Oh, no, no, no. We've only just begun.
DPS. Left. DPS. Left. Confetti.
What? There's no way that didn't work. Still alive? Unbelievable!
Confetti.
I really must insist you die!
You must look. You must. Stack in, you must look.
Yeah, how boring. Guess I'll have to spice things up. Intriguing. This clearly isn't your first time.
A pretty good Viper run for me for
This is meant
He
to
won.
be our ultimate encounter. Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
Remember to mitt, remember to pod. Remember this. 1.
support Deffa, support Deffa, support Deffa, support Deffa. I am support Deffa,
2.
support Deffa.
Then future. Future.
Support Deffa, support Deffa,
3.
support Deffa,
Remember this.
support
4.
Deffa.
Then past. Past.
Supports that.
5. 6. Then future. Future.
Support stack. I mean DPS stack, DPS stack,
7.
DPS stack. DPS stack.
8. Then
I've been
passed.
playing support all night.
Passed on A. On A.
Enough time for me to die here?
I guess we'll find
Yeah.
out. Stay.
Yes, this is a good time to do it. Right then is the time to do it.
Remember to admit.
But I don't think we're gonna beat DPS check though. Oh, did you
Not
push?
now.
Well, that's all my mitt there, so I wasn't sure if you'd need it. Sorry.
Oh, in that case, I guess you made the right decision, but I should have healed you.
Party to A.
I didn't realize mine I should have healed too.
I'm jumping off. Sorry. Can we take a break?
Yeah.
Okay. I need to go to the bathroom really bad.
Break time. I can make nom noms.
Yeah, we can take our 10 now.
Nom noms. Wait, I'll be right back. I'm gonna make nom noms really quick. Nom noms are good. Yeah. Nom noms. Ba, 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 ba. Here, let me do that. Okay. Here, B. Hello, chat. Ice back with food. With the num nums. Thanks, you guys. Thank you. Num 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 nums. I forgot to meal prep, so I really didn't have a lot of food, but I have mini corn dogs. I love mini corn dogs. I honestly think I like mini corn dogs more than I like chicken nuggies. Mm-hmm. You made me hungry? Okay. Oh, I think earlier Nara was saying that when I was streaming before, the eye tracker was like doubled. I don't know if it's still doubling. I was trying to see if I could see it myself to see if there was like the doubling happening, but when I tested it this morning, before I started raid, not this morning, before raid started, it looked fine, but let me know if you guys like see doubling for the eye tracker. No doubling? Okay, okay. Also, welcome back. I'm yapping so much. I don't yap this much ever. You guys got me yapping. Wee wee wee. Yap yap yap.
Yap.
Yap. Yap yap yap. Yap yap yap. I think I have a yap emote. Hold on. I do. Yap. It's not very good as an emote, because it's a PNG like GIF thing. And I just like cropped it to make it into an emote. Because I needed another emote, had another emote slot available, so I was like, okay. I like it. I like you, EC. Hee hee. What? You're feeling shy, EC? Feeling shy? Should I not do that on stream? I'm a shy lad. I don't know. I don't know what to listen to. I have a rough idea what I want to listen to. Hold on. It's all gonna sound like the same, but I promise you it is not the same. Okay? I don't know if I can like handle lyrics right now. I really like this dude stuff. He makes some really good music. It really like tingles my ADHD brain like in the right way.
I have returned.
Welcome back.
Yeah. I ate so much food. I was so hungry.
I'm also eating food. What did you have?
I had. The fuck did I eat? I don't even remember what I ate. I was
You just
eating.
inhaled it?
It's gone. Oh no, I had rice and stir fried.
Yum.
Now I have a Coke Zero, and I am so tired.
I have a Sprite Zero.
Nice. And I had a side of weed. You know, good stuff.
Nice.
Good stuff. I'm gonna have to work late the next 2 days, so I'll let you know tomorrow if I may need like 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Out.
And we're not meeting up Thursday anyways, I don't think. So
Okay.
if we might. I just have to find us a sub. But so far, everybody I've asked is busy.
The only melee I know are all in this party already. like melee 1, melee 2, melee 3. Right?
Yeah. Hi, Miso.
Melee 1, melee 2.
My kitten is meowing at me. Pengu! Hi, Pengu! Happy 3
Well, I
months!
played League Classic
Hi.
with some old friends, like who I started League with. That shit was crazy. League Classic's kind of fun.
Are you raiding right now?
Takes me back.
Pengu. Very nice. I hope your raid night goes well and you make good prog. Make some good frog prog. We're talking about healing. Ah. Hey Pengu, since
If
you
they bring back
you just
Dominion as part of Classic,
hold
if
on.
not, I don't care.
No.
Nah.
One moment.
I just like
Fuck, I
playing
can't.
old
I fucking
champions, like the old versions of them, like old school Akali.
Old
I love
school.
that.
I started
Old school
a sticker
Shen.
club. So basically, Twitch subs can opt into it. Or you can also sign up via coffee for the member the sticker club. And yeah. Basically, you have until the 25th to fill out the form. And after that, I will send you stickers. Right, I went to fill it out, but forgot. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm back. Hello.
Yay!
What did I miss?
Mumi says, gotta find a
Good
raid group at
question.
some point. Oh, hell yeah.
What is this? That's an emote?
Yeah, that's the dazed emote.
Where?
Oh, hold on. I got kick me so out.
Remember?
One second.
I think
I have
it's
to kick me
PvP.
so out.
Sorry, jeez.
Yeah, it was PvP. I don't know if it's the current one. I don't think it's the current one. I haven't
Shit,
played it at all.
PvP. I
So-
can't be bothered to do that.
I did a lot of PvP in my day. I'm done with PvP for the season.
Easy, that's
What's
a
the current
throwback.
reward? It's an outfit, right?
It's one of
There's
the
also
outfit.
an emote.
Oh.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, do I have?
There's
Remember
always an
Saken finished
emote
one
and
for an
an
outfit
I
right away.
think.
I grinded the shit out of that one, yeah.
Sorry,
I've
I'm
also
back.
done one.
He still lost her privilege to be in my room.
Uh-oh.
Banish.
Everybody food up.
Did you try the treat inside of the tissue box again?
Yeah, actually I have these like small space tissue boxes, so they're cylinder and they're like 4 inches. So they're like a long tube basically. And she just like plays with that all the time.
Dude, as soon as I saw your brother put the treat inside of the tissue box, and then Mochi just sit there and play with it for like an hour, I was like, that's the most genius thing I've ever seen.
I pull.
Good luck with raid. Good luck
I
with
need to do
raid,
that.
Pengu.
The first problem with
out.
that is emptying out
Ayo.
the tissue box.
Just get allergies.
It's
And
not a
really
problem
easy.
when you're sick like me all the time.
Like in the head, or like
Quick now, make your peace with
Bit of both.
because I'm
You know, the fact that I've been in the hospital for the like at least once a month at this point.
so like sick in the head, right?
Supports. Stack out. Spread out. Spread out. Spread out.
Yeah, this is the type of music I wanted to listen to for tonight.
Saken, you're a god.
You like that?
Ready. Ice.
Bro, I had full confidence I was gonna make that shit. I was like, I'm good.
I was gonna say something, but I forgot. But I bet it was really funny or cool.
You're so funny.
Thanks.
Good one, Nar.
Okay, stop, that's enough.
no.
I've never laughed so hard in my life.
DPS.
I'm starting to feel a little offended that the funniest joke, that the most reaction I've ever gotten to a joke is the one that I didn't say.
Right.
Right.
That's timing.
Supports. Right. Betty.
Wow.
Oh,
Confetti.
have targeted out. Oh, I fucked up. I fucked up. I fucked up.
Yay, confetti.
That was funny.
Yes. Slay queen.
It would be so bad.
Music for the sick in the head. Hell yeah. Hey, son. How's it going?
Oh, really?
I just can't count.
You be yapping tonight. Down and left. Down first. Down first. What am I doing?
Still alive?
Oh, it's fine.
Betty.
You die.
What am I doing? What am I doing? Too much yapping. Too much yapping. That sucks.
Oh,
That was a
you
double.
must look. You must.
Whee!
Stack out. Run away.
Oh, hard cast.
Ah, that was me.
Boss is dead, so it's fine.
Wah.
If you did fail the thing, though, you want to just
We
reset?
failed.
I don't think.
Yeah, just
I'm
reset.
down. Yeah, I do
Yeah.
not.
We're,
We
we're
know
getting through
Forsaken.
Forsaken. We're getting through Forsaken often enough that we should just start jumping off if we fail. The
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Dreams, hope.
Unless we want to get EC the good the ending. That's
I haven't heard.
Unless we want to get EC the dub. That's the only time.
No, it's not. It's not worth it.
Going okay. Very tired. How are you? I am also tired. I only
The
got like
Forsakens have been really good for the last 2 weeks.
2 hours of sleep last night, but that's because of my Adderall. I started taking my medication again, and my body's just like hypersensitive to like medication in general, so it's just gonna take a little bit of time for my body to get used to having Adderall again. So honestly, I'm like doing really well for someone who only got 2 hours of sleep. I'm functioning as a quote-unquote normal human being.
Oh my god.
Sports. Stack out.
Yeah, that's also why I am able to yap and raid right now, is
Ready.
because of the Adderall.
Ice.
It helps my brain work. Proud of you for taking your meds again, though. Thank you. Me too. What did
Powerful.
Mumi say? Hold on. Do people run UCOP and UU anymore? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They mostly, for the most part, I think, PF it.
We've only just begun.
DPS.
I am a DPS. Yeah. I mean, unless you like have a static, you know, people still run it, but there's a decent amount of PFs that run UU and UCOB.
Yes.
I am a DPS. Right.
Right. Confetti.
But I've been really itching to play Monster Hunter again.
She's empowered by my sparkler.
I'm distracted by your sparkler. Pissing me off.
That didn't work.
God damn it, DC.
Yeah, you see what the fuck?
Still alive? Unbelievable.
Confetti.
I really must insist you die.
Oh, I killed you. Sorry.
Do not. Oh, I'm just going all the way around. Do not.
You hate
look.
me?
Do
You
not.
hate me?
Spread out. Do not look. Yeah, that's fair.
I stopped for an extra boil and it killed you. My bad.
R hates me, he hates me, he hates me, he hates me.
I'm afraid that's all I have.
It's been a while since I had the confetti. I forgot that I can't cast anything at all.
Prob more so in Discord maybe. I check PF once in a while and it's
Sparkle
all
reading.
bathtub RP. Oh. I guess also it depends if you come over to Aether. Aether is known for, you know, its raid community, so my PF probably looks very different from your PF, but yeah. You can travel to Aether and do PF stuff there. Yeah, I mean honestly, all the servers here on. Oops, what am I doing? I fucked up my opener. It's probably fine, right? Yeah, it's probably fine. I'm a Viper. Yeah, it's fine.
Supports. Spread out.
I fucked that one up. That was my bad. I blanked out.
Whee! But yeah, a Fairy is a very popular server. That's the server I'm currently on,
bad.
and it
My bad,
just
Mel.
opened up.
Yo, bro.
Oh, wait, that reminds me. I can, haha. You can also just ask in my Discord. I'm sure people would love to just run old content. People are a little busy right now because of Kafka, but honestly, there's a ton of people in the server that would probably love to run stuff like Salty. Salty wants to do tea.
Supports. Spread in. Confetti. Ice.
Alexander Prime, my beloved, he is true. True.
Supports.
I am not a support. I am not a support. I am not a support.
Left. DPS.
I am, however, a DPS. You know I'm a DPS, you guys.
Or left.
I have confetti. Yippee. I love confetti. Oh, wrong way. Honestly, I really need to fix my confetti redeem so you guys can spam confetti. You were thinking of transferring? Oh my god, you should. You should transfer over to Fairy and come join Wings. Wings of Immortals. It's my stream community, but it's a lot more than just that. It's what it's like a project of mine, but basically I just like support my friends, other streamer friends.
Oh no! I'm taking all of them.
Yes,
I'll res
this will work.
Dory. I'll res
Just
Dory.
don't. Just don't.
Wait, why don't?
You must
Well, 'cause
respect
we thought we said
stillness.
we aren't doing.
Yeah, it was gonna work. That's why he
doesn't-
said it
doesn't
works, it
arrows
works,
fail?
it works.
Damn.
Just me chasing Seiken.
Oh no, yeah, we got all the arrows.
Yeah.
Until, well, we were going to.
I just saw him going around the whole thing.
Blah, blah, blah. Let's see.
I thought I timed
Oh,
it
a
out
mood of
before
mine
we
is on
finished it,
Fairy.
that's
Oh, more of a reason why you should
No, it's just
to switch over to
I,
Fairy.
I punched Dory to death, but besides that, it was the arrows are gonna work.
That's all.
I do also need all the old stuff again eventually on my new character. Yeah, yappy.
Pulling.
These stupid sparklers on my
You should stream fighting games. Oh my god, you could teach me. Girl, please teach me. Dude, I'm gonna try learning how to play 2x KO. Because my friend Makoto, aka my Dragoon and my Static, he's also really into fighting games, right? And he's been wanting to get me into fighting games. And I was going to play 2XKO, and I downloaded it and started playing it, but oh my god, it's just too many buttons. Way too many buttons for me. And also, like, I was like, oh, Ari,
So it might be fine.
my wife, Ari.
It's P1. It's fine.
I tried.
Confetti.
Didn't work out.
Bofa.
Ofa.
No confetti.
Oh, did I get the confetti? Unlucky.
Yeah. Pretty sorry.
Sorry.
All good.
But then they teased that Lux was coming to 2XKO, and she looks so good. She looks so good in 2XKO. So I think I'm going to when she comes out.
This is my first time, so please take it easy.
I also thought about getting Guilty Gear.
Quick now, make
Because there's a very pretty lady in Guilty Gear that I would like to play.
Supports. Spread out. Confetti. Nice.
Anime fighters are like my bread and butter. I can help you with that one too. Oh my god! Yippee! You're like like a what's the word I'm looking for? Fuck. I'm not support. I'm not support. Not support. Oops. You are like a fighting game god, aren't you, goddess?
Left.
At least from what I've heard from Nar.
Supports.
I'm not a support. I'm not a support. I'm not a support.
Left. Confetti.
Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? I'm looking at a motorcycle sometime this week. I'm very excited.
There's no way that didn't work. Still alive? Unbelievable!
Confetti.
I really must insist you die.
This one gives me spooky Halloween vibes.
Do not look. Do not. Stack in. Do not look.
When you're teleporting around in the arrows, the sparkler doesn't disappear, so you just see the sparkler sliding the whole way.
Intriguing. This clearly isn't your first time. This is
You
meant
weaved
to be
in a
our
sparkler?
ultimate encounter.
I've even 9 sparklers that full.
I've been ignoring him.
I can't use sparklers anymore starting here though, because the potion puts them on cooldown.
Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
It's okay, easy sparklers are phase 1 only.
Remember to
God.
knit. Remember to pot.
Oh. Wowee.
Ouch.
Where's our
I
mid?
haven't seen that in a long time.
Wowee.
there. Reprisal was there. I'm just saying.
Paint was also up.
I don't want to talk about it.
Are you
It's
sure?
the
Sparkler
goddamn
maxing. He's too
sparkler.
busy sparkler
The
maxing.
sparklers.
Sparkler aggro.
Sparkle on. It's Tuesday.
Yumi said I can teach you how to
Go
play
again.
Tekken. Ooh, Tekken. Do you actually ride motorcycle? I took my MSF course. It was a terrible experience because
like
the
those
MSF
ones.
course here in where I live is not great.
I don't even know.
What is standard procedure here is
Yeah,
most
those
people just get their permit and they don't ever take
As a kid, I called them brown
their
stickers.
license like tests until they get pulled over. Which is not what I'm gonna do, but I am gonna take my get my permit, which is just a written test and like an eye exam basically from what I've read, and then just practice. So
Spread in.
I'm very excited to get into it.
Confetti. Ice.
Wow.
I am looking at the Ninja 500. I was supposed to get a Ninja 400, but okay. Story time. I was supposed to get a Ninja 400 a couple weeks ago. I was buying it off a guy on marketplace. And we had like agreed on the money. DPS, right? DPS. And I was like, okay, when are you available? No?
Right.
And this guy goes, oh, actually, I'm gonna go with this DPS. Go with this other buyer. I'm like, what do you think we were doing here? Just chatting?
Confetti.
Dude, I was so pissed. But I was talking to another friend about it, and what we think happened is that, okay, so he was selling his Ninja 400 for relatively pretty cheap, because I think he just like needs to get rid of it, like pretty quickly. And he was asking for like probably 2 to 3 grand less than what like other Ninja like 400s are like usually sells for used. And I think what happened was another person offered more. So it feels bad, but
Confetti.
whatever. I'm not salty about it.
Do not look. Do not. Stack out. Do not look.
Yeah, how boring. Guess I'll have to spice
I got
things up. Intriguing. This clearly isn't your first time. This is meant to be
You guys are
ultimate.
talking about taking turns to teaching me? That's so cute. You guys are so cute.
Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
Remember to knit, remember to pod. Remember
I am-
this. One.
That.
Two.
Stuff.
Then future. Future.
Phone.
3. Remember this. 4.
I am Deffa.
The
Deffa.
future.
Deffa.
Future.
I am Deffa.
5.
I am Deffa.
6.
I am Deffa.
Then past. Pass. 7.
I am Deffa.
8. Then future on A. A. Go.
Oh, I'm lagging. Why am I lagging? Hello?
Remember to knit. Party to A.
He's dead, so I'm just gonna add him. Yay.
Murdered. Murdered.
I see what's going on here.
Oh my god. I forgot I had freaking
Ooh.
mini corn dogs.
For it now. Who am I
Do?
talking
Nom nom nom.
I'm talking to you, of course. Y-O-U.
I do think streaming, recording my gameplay will give me more reasons to practice and get better though. You should do it. Yeah. Do it, do it, do it, do it.
There's nothing I can't do.
Oh. That's good to know that.
Toys can I throw in here?
And actually, okay. Sorry. I'm talking to myself. Have fire.
Water short.
Water.
Fire. And look at X stuff.
Bless you. Minutes. Sides. Fire.
Marvelous sensation.
Might have been me, sorry.
Jealous? Enthralled? I don't blame you.
Look at X stuff.
Check your back
Look at
shots.
X stuff. Look at X stuff. Look at X stuff. Look at X stuff.
Alpha. Clockwise. Alpha clockwise. Alpha clockwise. Alpha clockwise. Alpha clockwise.
3, 4, beep, 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 boop, 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 boop. I'm over here.
Living dead. Holy fuck.
Or not.
Millions are dead.
Only 4, actually.
I just used all my mana. Even fucking good.
Wowie!
Ah! I should not be taking X step.
Looking at my mini map, it get worse.
I've got big ambitions and a big attitude.
Sorry. Also, 2XKO is a team game, so a little bit
What
bit
happened?
more crazy than a standard fighting game. So being overwhelmed is absolutely understandable. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Someone was in the wrong
yeah.
spot, I assume.
I didn't make it in time. I tried to look at my mini map, which I literally never do because I couldn't see anything. And that made it worse. That 2 minutes is just, I'm still trying to figure out the timing on the mid sheet stuff, and it just like threw me off. I'll do better.
For which part? At the 2 minutes?
Yeah, I just won't do the 2 minutes if I can't.
Yeah, that's fine.
Pull him. We got this shit.
There'll
y'all.
be plenty of time to figure that out later. I'm also kind of struggling to time stuff at that exact moment too.
This is my first time,
A
so
little,
please take it easy.
but I don't think it's not that tight because we have way more than enough mit on the second one, I think.
Quick now,
So
make
it's
your
fine.
peace with death.
If it's not
because I'm
exactly
making
perfect.
your death with all these pieces.
EPS. Spread out. Confetti.
It's me.
Bofa.
Line, anchor. Did you think you'd won? Oh, no, no, no. We've only just begun.
Supports.
I am not a support.
Right. Supports.
That's not good.
I'm jumping up.
Left. Yeah, fair.
I had him too. I don't know where the shield just never came out.
He took
Whee!
half room.
I mean, I know what happened. I meant I don't know what happened to my
Oh, like
Adler that I
after.
cast on him that never happened.
Damn.
The cast bar finished. It just got lost in transit somewhere. I don't know.
Pull him.
My ADHD brain is very happy. I like this artist a lot.
So please take it easy. Quick now, make your peace with death, because I am making your death with all these pieces.
Oh, you have a Honda? Oh my god. LT, I'm gonna ask you about
Supports.
motorcycle questions.
Spread out.
Probably.
Confetti. Lightning.
Yippee! Wait, if you have a picture of your bike, you should definitely post it in the Discord. I want to look. I was really, for a little bit, I was,
Just begun.
Supports.
I'm not a support, I'm not a support. I was thinking about getting the Yamaha R3. I really wanted Ninja, I think. I'm not a support. Oops.
Left. GPS.
I am, however, a GPS.
Left. Betty?
I know very little about bikes, but they look really cool. Yeah, that's valid.
What? There's no way that didn't work. Still alive? Unbelievable.
Betty?
I really must insist you die.
Do not look. Do not. Spread out. Do not look.
Yeah, how boring. Guess I'll have to spice things up. Intriguing.
You
This
bastard.
clearly isn't your first time. This is meant to be our ultimate encounter. Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
Remember to mint, remember to pod. Remember this. 1.
And support cone. Support cone. Support cone. Support cone. Yippee!
2. Then passed. Passed.
Support cone.
3. Remember this. 4. Then passed. Passed. 5. Six. And future. Future.
Support stack.
7. Eight. Then pass on 2. 2. Stay. Miss. Party to A.
I got him.
God dang it. Let me finish my death rattle thing. Kafka is being a jerk.
I did a quintuple step.
I worked for the Yamaha R6 engine one time, so I kind of know a bit
Quintuple
about
step
that line, but
straight
that's about
ahead,
it.
then
That's so
died, no
cool.
worries.
Oh yeah.
The Yamahas are very, very nice looking too. Oh, hi Pingu, sorry, I totally missed your message. You're on a 10-minute break. You are probably done with your break now.
Let's see if I can't take the reins.
Raid is going okay. We haven't really made Rock Point at all tonight, but
What other toys can
I suppose that's okay. We made really good prog last week, so it happens.
Fire short.
Fire.
Tank fire.
I am looking at Kafka. Look at Kafka. I mean, Xdeath. Look at Xdeath. Oh, dude, I'm lagging. I'm clipping.
Sides. Watcher.
Look at Xdeath. Look at Xdeath. Look at Xdeath.
Don't get jumped on. Check your back shots. Alpha. Counter.
Alpha counter.
Alpha counter. Alpha counter. Alpha counter. Alpha counter.
We're so far away.
Living Dead.
Careful.
Chaos Spaders, get ready. Tank Buster again. Seiken goes first.
I've got big ambitions and a big attitude.
Deploying off Seiken.
Oh, I'm trolling.
Come here, Seiken, come here.
That sucks.
We are EC and Dory.
Take this and that and what
But you can't like stand at the edge of the room, Seiken. I have to deploy off
Sorry.
here.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Sorry, Faint was missing there because my macro was not wanting to go off.
I will pull it.
Yar.
You got this, girly. Thank
Yes.
you.
Why did I go in too early? Is it bad to go in that early for the tank buster?
What
For
does
what?
that mean? Can someone
You
teach
said-
me?
I thought you were talking to me when you're like too early. and I
about
allowed
what?
you to
Sorry.
For the first tank buster.
Did I say that?
Yeah. I swear you said too early. I was like, oh. why can't I-
But
On
it's
the, like,
great.
element part?
Holds very good in the
like,
corners.
fire
Balance
element?
it. Can
no,
really
no,
stay
no,
on
it
wheels
was-
without
It was
stand,
like when
and I
like,
can touch the
after
ground and not levitate.
X said
Oh,
that, like the big thunder and we're all out.
Prog
I
point? Oh,
immediately went in. 'cause I
so
couldn't hear it. I heard
progress.
you say too early. I was
So
like, oh.
when we do mechanics and we like hit like a mechanic that we haven't seen before, that is prog point. So that's like
If I
the
said that, it
mechanic
was an
that
accident, I guess. I don't
we've
remember saying that. My
gotten
bad.
furthest to. That is the prog point. And then when we get past that progress point,
I'm having
then we make
trouble
prog.
with
Never mind, not pulling.
earthquake.
I might have said 2 minutes. Maybe.
I heard
Oh,
too
that
early
makes more sense.
also,
Oh, okay.
but I
Sorry?
can't see when he's casting it, so macros wasn't up. I
For what?
was
Yeah.
waiting for the tanks.
Mhm,
I was
mhm.
waiting for the tanks to take damage for the tank buster, and then they like did not take any damage, which is fine. But then I was like, oh, he's doing something. And last time I pushed the button when I saw him doing something, it was not.
Are you
it
sick
was
again?
casting, it
Hi,
went too
Glitch.
early.
No, I'm just yapping a lot. I usually don't yap this much
Especially for the
while I
cast
raid,
bar
so
after
I'm
the second tank buster is
not
earthquake.
used to it. I'm clearing my throat a lot. I'm trying not to do it right
They
into
cast
the
it
mic. I'm
after the
sorry.
second tank buster, yeah, because it's the tank buster that gets living dead, and then they cast the decisive battle, and then another tank buster. And
I'm
then
back
earthquake.
on my
What's the third
ADHD
tank
medication,
buster?
so I'm on Adderall, which
it's
is
just an
allowing me to
Okay,
be able
that's
to
what I was
yap
confused.
and raid at the same time. So,
Yeah, but I was waiting for damage, and I was like looking.
are
to
you going
heal.
in completely blind past your
I don't
current
know.
prog point,
think
or do you look up
it's fine.
mechanics that will come later in raid? So we're doing ultimate. So
I'm having a rough
ultimate is
time.
very much like a marathon.
Actually, he starts casting earthquake
kind of.
while XF is like
so
still doing the
Nar,
Thunder 3.
our scholar here, he's a
The third
world
one.
racer.
So, like, I think
Like,
you can choose
um,
macro. Like
he is like
macro lasts 15 seconds, right?
I don't know how to explain Nar without like simping for him.
The mid sheet should have.
I suppose I can just tell you the facts.
The mid sheet timings are really
Mr.
bad.
Narlock
Like I know when
was on an
I
esports
know
team
when
for
I'm supposed
14.
to cast it. I just
So yeah,
I'm,
he's
like,
very good.
I can't see their cast bars.
And Nar actually taught me
Because
how
I'm
to
looking at
play
the
14 when I started playing like 10
Just
something
watch
years
a
ago.
replay of like. Watch a
But yeah,
replay of,
he's
of,
this is like his
watch the
second
enemy
group.
list during
He's already
replay, and then,
cleared.
like, this, if you're looking at
So
the
like
tank buster, just
weapon that
decide
you
when in the
see.
tank buster you're
So
gonna
that's
push it, if that makes sense.
the
That's how you
weapon
don't
that you
look at
get
chaos.
from clearing. So
Okay.
yeah, he's cleared already, and he's just helping my group out because
I
we're
think
like
in
his
between the
like
first and
baby
the
raid
second
group.
hit of the thunder
We're
should be
not
fine.
really baby
But that's why I was
technically
like,
compared to
I
like
didn't see the tanks take any damage, so I was
other
like,
groups,
asking
but
hers,
like
I was
we're
like,
baby
nothing's
compared to him,
happening.
you know.
And I can't see what's going on during that.
But it's important to like do your homework for like a lot
have
of
to
these
look at the
ultimates
loss
because
control.
like
Yeah, I'm watching
it's
the
a
report
long
to see what
fight,
time it is.
and ultimates are very like
Did it end? I didn't
the
end
word I'm
it.
looking for.
So decisive battle goes off exactly 15 seconds before earthquake damage does.
So when I get the
Gandalf over here
alpha
towering over everyone. Mr.
debuff.
Narlock, yeah.
That's not what she's looking for.
She's
She's trying to hit as
what
late
was I
into
gonna
the
say?
earthquake as cast bar as possible while still catching it.
It's
Not, like,
it's a
15
very much an
seconds before.
endurance. That's the word, endurance.
Yeah, I'll show you a replay.
Oh, the buff lasts for 15
Straight
seconds.
up like a
right?
20-minute fight. Is it?
Yeah, it
I
will
honestly
go off,
haven't really looked at the
like,
actual time of
immediately
the fight.
after 15
But
seconds.
yeah,
You see, I have a replay.
YouTube.
So if you just
and
time
it gets
like,
hard
after the buffs go
because
out, then
you
it'll trigger after the
because all the
earthquake hits.
mechanics for
It's not
ultimates
supposed to trigger after the
are very
earthquake hits.
Oh,
difficult.
it's not. I thought it was
Like
kind of
every mechanic, you know, basically. So it's important to hit your
No, I
prog
have to
point
manually do
and
it,
like
but it just
the
can't be
mechanics
Like, he's casting
because
Thunder 3, and
later
while
in
he's
the
still doing Thunder
fight
3,
you see
earthquake's
less of
happening.
it.
You see
Even
the-
though it's still
the enemy
difficult,
list?
you see less of
Oh, no,
it.
sorry, it's the
So
one- it's the
yeah,
third one.
it's just endurance.
Where's
You see the enemy list right here?
Oh, yours is on a
Good
different.
luck back to
okay, yeah.
Froggies. Good luck, Pinku. Good luck.
So he starts doing the Thunder 3, and then
I think
while
maybe
he's
it's a
still doing
couple
the Thunder
shorter,
3,
but
the earthquake
close. Yeah, I
starts.
could believe it.
Okay.
And then right when the second one hits, it's like 2 seconds before the earthquake.
That sounds
happens.
intense. It is. It is very intense.
I will try again.
I don't remember like the actual statistics and
I don't think
percentage
we need the
of
full
the amount of people who
14
actually
seconds of the. We only
even
need, like,
attempt ultimates,
9 or 10.
and then
seconds.
even the percent that actually clears
So I think if
ultimates.
you do it
I think
just
it's a lot higher
sometime
now
after the first hit
because
of
we
the tank buster should
have
probably
a lot
be fine.
of players from WoW. So you,
Like, if you were to cast it right
like
here,
a lot of the
it would
WoW
be fine.
players play 14.
That would give us,
So
like, 8 seconds
the
to do the first one.
rating community is a little bit more
giant lightning bolts because I'm like behind chaos.
what's the word I'm looking for?
and I was like, what's happening?
I'm
that's fair.
I'm blanking.
You are way over there. Yeah, after you
It's just
bait the
more
debuff scope, you should just go back to the middle.
populated than it used to
Okay,
be.
That'll probably help. Sorry, thank you.
The whole party should be in the middle for. If you're not doing
Picture
something, you should be in the
posted.
middle for the whole black.
Let me
black
look.
hole phase, by the way.
Shut up. Salty.
Boogie bait our boss.
She's beautiful. Oh my god.
Then you go to the middle.
The red is so pretty on
It's
her.
gonna be right here. Then from the middle,
Jeez.
you can see it pretty easily. It's like once Basically, once Malik survives the second, once you think Malik is going to survive,
It must be really hard to learn later phases since you gotta get to them in order to do so. Yes. So that's why like it's really important to like know ahead of time like what the mechanics are doing. So like we do a lot of like homework sessions or study sessions, especially when we make prog. And like we clear a phase, then we'll take like, you know, an hour to like talk about like that mechanic.
This is my first time, so please take it easy. Quick now, make your peace with death, because I'm making your death with all these pieces.
I could yap about the giant raider of a size gap between casual player versus raiders,
Yes.
and even the
Back in.
fuck, yapping too much. Whoopsies.
Confetti. Lightning. We still have confetti, we're all good.
Everything's fucked up. Rip.
We've only just begun.
DPS.
I am a DPS.
DPS.
Yep.
Right. Supports. Right. Confetti.
Oh, I forgot to paint. That's fine. I think I still got it. My Gru has been thrown off. It was my fault, but it was still thrown off.
Still alive? Unbelievable!
Confetti.
I really must insist you die!
Oh, we might be fine actually with my gauge and everything. Ugh.
You must look. You must. Stack out. You must look.
No, I think I have. He has two
Make sure
of
he
his
dies.
songs.
Send whatever you have to
Guess I'll
send.
have to spice things up. I'm afraid that's all I
Good
have
job.
time
Make
for
sure he
today.
dies.
Bye-bye now!
No, he just has the song in two different albums, and I've liked both songs.
Do you think if you LB there, you get it back for phase 3? Or no?
I think it's possible.
I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't remember.
All in.
This is my first time, so please take it easy. Quick now, make your peace with death, because I'm making your death with all these pieces.
Supports. Stack in.
Actually, you might be right. It might just be repeating. Huh.
Dodge.
Backward.
Did you think you'd won? Oh, no, no, no. We've only just begun.
DPS.
My DPS. Yippee. I don't know why. True north there.
Right. Supports. Right.
I was barely out of that. Fuck.
What? There's no way that didn't work.
I think I'm crashing a little bit, you guys. I think the lack of sleep and my Adderall wearing off. I am pretty eepy.
Still alive? Unbelievable.
Confetti.
I really must insist you die.
Do not look. Do
I was about to say, Salty, why are you up currently?
Spread in. Do not look.
You're usually in bed at this point, aren't you?
Spice things up.
Usually
You
eepy.
must not look.
Intriguing. This clearly isn't your
Avert your
first
eyes.
time.
You must.
This
Yeah,
is
it's
meant
just
to be
on a
our
repeat. Sorry, you guys.
encounter.
Sorry, the music's on repeat.
Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
I will go eat. You should. You deserve the rest.
Remember to mitt. Remember to pop.
I wonder if I don't need to do that.
Remember this. 1.
And support cone. Cone. Support cone. Support
2.
cone. Have a good night, Salty. Support cone.
And passed.
Cone.
Passed.
Support cone.
3.
Support cone.
Remember this.
Support
4.
cone.
Then passed. Passed. Five. 6. Then passed. 7. Or passed then 7, sorry.
Oh, you're all good, Makoto.
Me when we died to 6-7.
Do we need to vote disband again? Pull in.
This is my first time, so please take it easy. Quick now, make your peace with death, because I'm making your death with all these pieces.
Supports. Stack in. Confetti. Dodge.
Line, speaker.
Oh, I'm zoning out. I'm zoning out, you guys. So EP.
Did you think you'd won? Oh, no, no, no. We've only just begun.
DPS.
Hey, my DPS. God damn it, I used fucking True North again. But I don't need to do that.
Left. Supports. Right. Confetti.
Follow your dream, go eat. I will after raid.
What? There's no way that didn't work. Still alive? Unbelievable!
Confetti.
I really must insist you die!
Do not look. Do not. Stack in. Do not look.
Yeah, how boring. Guess I'll have to spice things up. Intriguing.
Damn it,
This
Kafka,
really
you piece
isn't
of shit.
your first time. This is meant to be our ultimate encounter.
New PB, I got 11 sparklers without clipping my GCD.
Good job.
Crafty little bastards, aren't you?
Remember to knit. Remember to pop. Remember this. One. Ooh. And future. Future. 3. Remember this.
I'm calm.
4.
Cone.
Then future.
Cone.
Future.
Come.
5. Six. And future.
Come.
Future. 7.
Come.
8. And passed on B. On B. Stay.
Holy fuck,
Mitigate.
risky cast. Very good.
Party to A.
That's more like it. That's what he should be looking like when he dies.
What?
He was turbo dead.
Oh, yeah.
He was dead before he even did the trauma.
I see what's going on here. Hmm? You're in for it now.
I will watch the cast bars.
We will successfully heal the earthquake this pool.
I'm talking to you, of course. You. Right. Let's see if I can't take the reins for a spell. There's nothing I can't do. Oh, what other toys can I throw in here?
Fire short.
Tank fire. Taken fire.
Fire.
Look away from Exta. Away from Exta. Away from Exta.
Two minutes soon.
Back.
Front back. Water.
What a marvelous sensation.
Check your back shots. Wait the jump.
I don't blame you. Here I go.
Alpha. Clockwise. Alpha clockwise. Alpha clockwise. Alpha
Where the
clockwise.
fuck is Alpha?
Alpha clockwise.
What?
Living Dead. Get away from Exdeath. You can move Chaos a little away, maybe. Oh no, Malik is tanking Chaos. Bait Chaos, Chaos Baiters. After this tank buster, Seiken will go first. Party can go towards the middle.
I've got big ambitions and a big attitude.
I will deploy off of Seiken after this. Make sure you check your macro timing.
And now a big body to match.
Zap
Hold on.
and a Gnar accretion.
It's on EC.
Wait, oh, my crazy. Oh, I was looking at the wrong shit. Fuck.
Right. Party stack.
Take this and that and one of these.
DPS 1 goes. We died. It's on the left side.
I don't know. I don't know why my macro's not going off. Maybe it is going off and I just can't see because they're so fucking big on top of everybody.
Yeah, you
I was
marked
marked.
easy before we died. Yeah, that's the only one I saw.
Last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Food, by the way.
Kill pull for sure.
Everybody, food.
Where the fuck is Alpha? What the fuck is a kilometer?
This is my first time, so please take it easy.
I can't fucking see what's happening.
Quick now, make your peace with death, because I'm making your death with all these pieces.
Support. Spread out. Confetti. Ice.
Line Tinker.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to switch the music for you guys. Sorry.
Did you think you'd won? Oh, no, no, no. We've only just begun.
Supports.
I'm not a support.
Left. Supports. Left.
I do have a confetti. Yippee! I will try to have confetti fixed for next stream tomorrow.
What? There's no way that didn't work. Still alive? Unbelievable! I really
Confetti?
must insist you die!
You must look. You must. Spread out. You must look.
Yeah.
Oh,
How boring. Guess I'll have to spice things up.
that's okay.
Intriguing. This clearly
Rating trade
isn't
me for
your
fighting games with the
first
amount
time.
of effects on screen. I used to play with all effects on.
I think I know where the.
It wasn't
the
until
conversation is supposed to go, so I
Ultimate
control him.
M11S that I turned it all
I'll
off.
just do the same thing I did last time.
Yeah, my entire time playing 14, I had all effects on for everybody, and I would raid like that.
Remember Mitt, remember Pot.
And it wasn't until M11S when I had to do callouts for weapons that I needed to turn that shit off.
Remember this.
Support cone.
Come on.
Support cone. Support cone. I am a support cone.
2. And future. Future.
Support cone. Support cone.
3.
Support cone.
Remember this. 4. Then past. Past. 5.
GG's for tonight.
GG's, everybody.
See you guys tomorrow night.
I'll let you know if I have to be on a little later.
Yeah, you're good. Take your time.
Nah. Peace out, y'all.
Good night, you guys.
Hey, good right
Good
tonight,
night.
though. Good job.
night.
Good night.
And yeah. Blah, 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 blah. I did the same until mine landed on me in a 6S, and then I was like, okay, I should change this. Yeah. That's so valid. Good work tonight, Dory. Thank you. Thank you, Yappy. I am going to probably go crash in bed because I'm EP. The EPness has caught up, so I'm going to go to bed. So yeah. I guess for those who, you guys are probably sick of me talking about it, but Sticker Club, anyone who is a Twitch sub member can opt in to get free stickers. You have until the 25th of this month to fill out the Google Doc for me to send you stickers. It's free. So I will never tire of Sticker Club. Aw. Sleep well tonight. Thanks for the stream. Of course, thanks for hanging out. I will see you guys tomorrow. And then for those who don't know, I also run a Discord for Wings of Immortals, so feel free to join that. That is the best place to figure out when I go live. It's been pretty consistently, I would say. I've been streaming more consistently, so anyways, I'll put them on my car, on my fighting game controller, on my back. Oh my god, Yappy, you're gonna make me cry. You're gonna make me cry. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye.